We're so glad you're here. Welcome to the Unlock Your Blocks podcast. My name's Elyssa. I'm so glad that you are listening today because have I got a treat for you? If you have ever wondered how women who are out here building their empires are doing it, my guest today is going to be such a look behind the curtains because she is an incredible businesswoman. She's an amazing mom. She's doing all the things all the time, and she has a job that I think most of us are a little scared of. But she's going to sort of like give us a peek behind the scenes today of what it's like to run her accountancy business. And I'm going to introduce you to Paige Gott right now. Paige, I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm going to give you a little bio, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
So Paige is an accountant and a virtual CFO for entrepreneurs, and I can personally vouch for her services, by the way. So if you're out there hustling, you got a side hustle, you're looking at like, I think my bookkeeping needs to be taken care of by someone else. I think I need a CFO in my business to advise me on what purchases I'm making. Paige is your girl. She helps business owners with their bookkeeping foundations, numbers processes, and all around financial strategy and growth. Paige is a wife and a boy mom of two who lives in the woods of Maine. It says the Maine woods, but like, is there like a side woods? You know, that's what I was thinking right now.
There's just like lots of woods.
It's just lots. It's like the Maine woods. Like, you know, the Maine ones?
Maine and Maine. It's
the
all
Maine
woods.
Yes. Like if you're reading this, you get it, you know, but everyone who's just listening, they might not understand. But I like to picture you living in the Maine woods, you know, like you're just in the central Maine woods. But you have so many, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with this because I find your whole life, I mean, I may or may not be one of your stalkers online. I love watching your stories, the way you guys do travel, the way you take care of your kids, like the experiences that you have living in sort of an extreme weather climate. And then you guys do wild stuff, like you Airbnb your house. You've been doing that for years, and just all this incredible stuff that alludes to the fact that you have built a lifestyle that really works for you. And you've customized the way that you live and the way that you do your business in a way that really points towards your dream life. Now, I have no idea. I've never asked you, like, are you currently living your dream life? But I would love to know, how did you get into what you do? And I would also love to know if you can give us the idea of how you ended up doing the virtual CFO company. It's called Tidewater Consulting, by the way, everyone. Google it and follow her immediately on all platforms. Like, you will not regret it. Also, she's just fun to watch. I can't even, with the way that she records her stories and the life, she has like this hygge lifestyle that you can I feel relaxed. I feel like I should just get a cup of tea and watch all of her stories. But her reels are great. She has great information, and she makes you feel so much better about the way that you handle money. Even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're listening today, I want you to really tune in to how Paige has designed her life, because this is something that I believe is accessible to everyone, but we all have these blockages that cause us to maybe slow down or cause us to stop pursuing the dream life that we really want. And I think Paige is such a great example of someone who has overcome a lot to be able to be fully present in her life. And I'm not saying it's perfect, so no pressure, Paige. You don't have to delineate the exact perfection of your life, but I know that you also have had challenges, and I'm so grateful you're willing to share all of that today. So if you can just give us an idea, how did you come to start your business? And even why did you start to Airbnb your house? Like what are those thought processes look like? And what would you want to share with somebody who's listening today who's thinking like, okay, I feel like I might be a little bit stuck. I want to move towards my dream life, but I'm not really sure how.
Yeah. So the business happened. I moved to Maine with my husband who grew up in Maine. And I was just like going to college remotely and doing all the random things like being a hostess and whatnot. And then
and you moved from Texas, right? So it was like
I moved from Texas.
Like a huge lifestyle shift to move
it
to
was like culture shock. I was like from South Texas, right near Mexico, and then moved up to Maine. So his parents owned a bed and breakfast, and I just like saw his parents, like they would fight every tax season because they'd be like, we have to get all our stuff together. And so I just started I actually bought the book, Bookkeeping for Dummies, because I was just like, I'm going to get this shit organized and like, we're going to do this. So I started doing their bookkeeping at the bed and breakfast. And then it kind of just,
really,
I was like, I really like this. I'm like kind of good at this organization thing. And then I went and I started working in an accounting firm. And then I went and got my master's in accounting, and it kind of just happened like that. And then eventually, like, I didn't want to do a 9 to 5, you know, you become a mom and you want like more time with your kids. And so I started just doing bookkeeping on the side, because by then I had plenty of experience. And then the bookkeeping business kind of just like morphed into the CFO strategy side. I mean, it sounds like really like easy, but it was a whole journey.
Right.
But that's like beginning to end kind of how I started the business. And yeah, so it all started with moving to Maine and helping my in-laws with their numbers. And then it kind of just grew from there. But
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so your house, you're close to the shore. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So we're in a town that's right on the coast. It's really tourist driven a lot of the year, but obviously like the summer is the big part. And so we've always lived in this town. And when we decided to build our house, so we bought some land from my in-laws and we decided to build a house after we had like bought and sold a couple. We started really small and then kind of went up from there. And then we were finally ready to build a house and we were like, oh, we still want to travel because I don't love winter. So we wanted to keep traveling in the winter. And the only way that we could do that and build a house at the same time was to rent it out in the summer. And so what we did is we bought a camper and off of like Craigslist and fixed it up and started living in our camper in the summer and renting our house because we can get a lot of money for renting our house. This is the first summer in 5 years that we're not going to be renting our house. It's the first year we're going to be living in our house.
Summer, right? Yeah. I remember you saying that last summer was your last one.
Yeah. So, but that did allow us to do a lot. We got to travel, a lot in the winter and we got to do other things because of that income. But then we would live in our house whenever we weren't traveling or not in the summer. But that's kind of how we started doing that.
Thank you so much for sharing. What I think is so special about this is that you have a very creative way that you make things happen money-wise. And for someone listening today, I want you to really hear how it doesn't have to be the way it's always been. You guys literally, Paige, you guys bought and sold a couple of houses, starting small, working your way up. It wasn't like you just got handed your dream house. It was like you kind of had to plan for it. And then you had to figure out, okay, don't love winter. I don't know that I've ever just thought like, maybe I'll start traveling. I mean, I don't, winter's not my fave either, but that's never occurred to me. Do something so that I could travel in the winter. I mean, that makes total sense. And I love the creativity to how you approach things. And I think that's what makes you so great at your job is just your ability to see a situation and then figure out creative solutions and to kind of go with the flow, which I think is hard for us high achievers. I think it can be challenging to do that. So over the years, how old is your business? How long have you been doing this?
This year, I think, is 11 years. I started like right after my second son was born and he's going to be 12 soon. So I think,
gosh, your baby's gonna be 12.
So I feel like it's been 11 years, which is crazy because it's gone by so fast, but yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So over that time and maybe even leading up to it, can you give the listeners an idea of were there blockages? Obviously there are challenges anytime anyone's building a business, but what we look at on this podcast is kind of internally anything you're coming up against that feels like resistance to the steps that you maybe know you need to take or, just your self-belief in general. We talk a lot about what I call the 3 Ps. They kind of travel in a herd. It's procrastination, perfectionism, and people pleasing. And then they have 2 good buddies in the gang called imposter syndrome and negative self-talk. They all like to kind of bully us and pop up in unexpected places as we build our empires in the world. Definitely. And so I'm curious if any of those have come up for you, and can you kind of give us an idea of what that looked like when you were realizing it? How can someone recognize that those things are affecting them?
Yeah, I think it was probably, obviously I've struggled with all of those things. So all of the above. Let's just go there.
This is all based on my own personal life, right? Like that's why I started this podcast. It's like, hey, by the way, if you're kind of a, shit show like I was.
Yeah, if you're like me,
come on over. Let's solve it together. Okay.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like I think the first thing for me was like quitting my job I was really lucky because my husband had a stable job. So, I was able to quit and kind of ease into starting my own business and be a stay-at-home mom at the same time. But I think for sure, people pleasing has always been like one, so I started my business and would go into people's businesses, like brick and mortar, like go in and sit in their office and do their bookkeeping, which is something I really didn't love doing because obviously I love freedom and that's like my biggest thing. But I just wanted to like make my clients happy, make sure they knew that I cared and be, But then COVID happened and then everything can now just be remote. So it became like very normal. But before COVID, I actually started to just say that I wanted to work remotely so I could be with the kids and like have more freedom. But I think imposter syndrome was a big one when it comes to pricing. And I see this with a lot of business owners. Like I had just started, I was charging hourly. I wasn't really charging enough. I didn't know really what my value was. But I think that it comes with imposter syndrome, but I think it also comes with like experience. After a certain number of years, you're like, okay, I know my value now. This is, so I think that first sort of raising of the prices was like a huge block for me. It was like
mini heart attack moment.
I was like,
no one's going to do it. No one wants this. No one wants this.
It's going to fire me. I'm going to have
and we're not going to be friends anymore.
Exactly.
And I'm probably going to end up homeless somehow in all of this. It's wild. Your system, I mean, our nervous systems are designed to put up warning signals when it thinks we're doing something that's going to put us in danger of rejection or abandonment. And so ultimately, that's kind of where those fears come from, is like, oh my gosh, no one's going to understand why I think, who does she think she is? That's kind of the question that comes up with that imposter syndrome stuff. And I've experienced it too. The first time someone told me you need to raise your prices, I was like, I'm going to lose all my clients.
Yeah.
They're like, but are you making ends meet right now? And I'm like, no, but I'm not going to raise my prices because then people won't like me and I'm going to die.
Why is it so hard? It's so hard. Yeah. Yeah. That was that raising of the prices, changing up my prices. I went from hourly to package, like value pricing. So like monthly retainers. That whole journey was just terrible. Like I was just like I need someone to help me with this. But, it all just showed me that, well, if you do a good job and people value your work, that doesn't matter. You can be like, I'm going to value pricing. Like, all right, well, that's what we're doing then. Like everybody raises their prices,
Yes.
And so that was a huge challenge. I think going from bookkeeping to strategy, even though I had done strategy before, I had done like managerial accounting in the firm that I was at. Like I had the degree, supposedly, like, it was the whole thing.
I did have the degree. This is supposed.
But isn't that funny? You're like, oh, I have the degree and it sounds impressive, but like in myself, I was like, this is not impressive. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, basically is how I felt, even though I obviously knew what I was doing. So I think going from, I had a fellow accountant say like, you're already doing strategy, you're just not like charging for it. And so that was another like block that I had in the journey of the business, is like being okay with saying that I did this type of work and like being confident in it. And I mean, you know how it is. It's like, it doesn't matter how long you've had a business. Like I still struggle with imposter syndrome. I still struggle with raising my prices. I still struggle with perfectionism and all of that stuff. But I think it just gets easier to cope with and deal with and then like get past. But yeah, I would say those two of the major, in the business, those were the two of the major blocks that I had for sure.
That makes total sense. Yeah. Thank you for normalizing it, because anybody who, and this could be true for you, even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're listening today, but you're working your way up in your career, or you're applying for a new job, or you're in training for a new job, that imposter syndrome can sneak up no matter what. And regardless of if you all of us are where we are because we earned it, right? Because we worked for this. I don't expect that there's anyone listening to this episode right now who is not a high achieving sort of overworker. Like we're the hardest workers in the room and we're looking for sort of relief, like someone to tell us like, that's enough. That amount of hard work is the appropriate amount, or you can stop working so hard right now. But our nervous systems are so committed to our survival, thank God, but they're so committed to our survival that they're like, do not mess this up, man. It's like these little voices in our mind. If you do that, she's not going to like you. That client's going to fire you, or that boss is not going to, and you're asking for a raise. I actually got asked to speak at a conference about how to ask for a raise as a woman, because there are so many women. We've all been socialized to be so nice and to be very accommodating and to be smaller and like have less needs, and asking for a raise in and of itself as a female, whereas our male counterparts don't seem to have as much of an issue with it. It is seen as sort of greedy for women to want more money. So if you charge more, or if you ask for a raise, or if you point out that you've been taking on more responsibility and then you're not being compensated well enough, all of that. I mean, as women, I think we have these unique struggles too, on top of just the normal air quotes, imposter syndrome. So thank you so much for sharing about that. What for someone who's listening today, who's like, I think I might be experiencing something like that, what is the feeling or the thought that comes with the imposter syndrome? How could you know? Like if you've never labeled it as that before, what did it feel like for you, for example, the first time that you raised prices? Did you have like any body sensations that went with that? Did you have like a certain thought that would repeat itself that you just kept coming up against that was coming against your actual raising of the prices?
Yeah, I feel a lot of that, as a lot of us do probably. Like I feel a lot of it in my gut. It was just like, like I would like, I would draft the email, to the client and just be like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm just like click send,
I love it. Good job.
It was just, but it was all in my gut, like break out into a sweat and just be, and I think what I was telling myself is like, I can't just like raise their price. Like I need to offer something more. I need to offer another call, or we need to, like do more that in order to raise the price. But what I've learned is that in some cases, I think that that's true. But in a lot of cases, I think that you just get way better at your job, and the value that you're providing is just a lot greater. And, I don't know if there's not really, obviously, this, like there's no perfect price situation, but yeah, I would definitely feel it in my gut. Definitely like hated sending those emails, but it gets easier. Does it get easier though? I'm like telling myself it gets easier, but I don't know if it actually does get easier. I think you're hearing, like I've heard a lot right now on a lot of podcasts and stuff about like your money thermostat. Like I think that gets raised. So the amount of money doesn't necessarily matter, but the act of like raising your price or changing your offerings or whatever when it comes to money is like, that part I don't think it gets easier. I think you just have to like get through it and then you're through it. But I don't think it doesn't really matter what the amount of money is. It's just that act of doing it that, at least for me, that made me a lot more nervous,
Yeah. And so in your experience with that particular thing, as you've done it, like how do you get yourself to do it? Do you just kind of like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or is there like another way that you found that feels supportive to you through that process? Like, what is it? What do you do to kind of calm yourself?
Oh my gosh. Well, first, like before, I have a lot of support around me, like coaches or other people in my industry. And so I usually talk with those people that I trust, and we have those talks about pricing and this and that. And so I think you don't just raise your prices because like you feel like you're raising your prices. It's either been a few years or the industry, you're not keeping up with the industry or whatever. So I think I just get comfortable with the fact that I am doing it and what it's going to be. Like for me, it's like I have a retainer. So I have to tell the client it's going to be this much more starting this at this point, So I think if I am looking at the pricing and it feels bad to me, then I know that I'm just doing it. Then it doesn't have any backup to it. You know what I mean? Because like I have to feel good in like my body with the pricing that I'm giving my client. So, and then if you feel resentment towards a client because they're paying too little, then you know that obviously you need to go up on that too. So I think it's really individual, for at least for me it is, because I don't work one to many. I work very much one to one with clients. And so it has to feel good in my body to tell them that price. And so that's how I kind of become okay with it. But the actual like act of sending the email is just like click, like send. Like I draft them and then I just immediately just like click send and then just sit there. And I was talking to a friend who is in the same industry as me, and she does the same thing. She's like, yeah, I just draft it. Like I feel good about the price. Obviously, I know that it's fair. I know that I'm really good at my job and I'm providing value, but it's that like that send, because I don't know what you're afraid of. It just must be afraid of the person thinking that you're not worth it or
being upset or ultimately so it's interesting because I've been doing this for about a decade, about as long as you have been doing what you're doing. And what I have found through all the training that I've done and through working with all the women I've had the pleasure to work with, it ultimately comes back down to 2 fears: rejection and abandonment. And they can be the same thing, almost like abandonment is rejection. As children, when we're born, like our psyche cannot handle rejection or abandonment. Like we can't. Perceived rejection or abandonment is death for a little tiny kid that can't take care of themselves. And so we're born with these connection needs. We're born with these needs to be actually physically cared for. And then the nervous system is on board as of, like 2 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old. It's all during those years. Its whole job is just to search the horizon for the threat of a need not getting met emotionally or physically. So then when you become an adult, right, we're grown-ass women who are sitting there being like, I don't want to send the email. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And it comes from this sort of primal place of if you tick off your caregivers as a child, for some women, it's horrifying what actually happens. The lack of needs that the needs that go unmet are like food or shelter or physical safety. And for some of us, I never experienced that. But what I did experience is my family was very performance based, right? So you got the most praise when you did the most perfect on whatever, piano or grades or whatever it was. And then when you didn't do well, it just sort of wasn't talked about. So there's there's no permission to just be however you are and to learn through things. It's like, we just ignore mistakes and then we depend on that high performance. But what that does is it then teaches us, no matter what, that you better get your needs met, which means you're going to please people and you're going to try to be more perfect and you're going to be maybe putting things off that don't feel safe, such as upping your prices and procrastinating that till next month. It's like that whole thing. It comes from this very honest, young place in us and getting more comfortable with it. And I think you said something so perfect right there. Listen to me. I'm going to eliminate that word from you said something so incredible a minute ago. We'll cut that out. Just that you said it needs to feel good in your body. And if you're feeling resentment, that means you need to ask for something different. And I think that's true not just with raising prices, but that's such an important key to raising prices. No matter what need you're asking to have met by whoever, whether it's your boss, your partner, your coworker, your client, like that you're saying, hey, I need to raise my prices. You have to feel a confidence with what you're asking for. Otherwise, the process of asking for it is going to be self-defeating. Mm-hmm. So that how you said it has to feel good in your body, what you're asking for. And then you have what it takes to click send, even though it kind of like your whole body's on fire for 5 seconds and you have to breathe through it. That confidence, I think, is what it really comes down to. And there are so many areas that can apply to. So I really appreciated how you described, that sensation in your body. And then that gut feeling, I really related to that because my stomach is like the first place I can tell something is not right. And my body's trying to protect me. I feel like my body's constantly trying to pull me out of like a perceived fire. And I'm like, but it's not, there's no fire. And it's like, I don't care. And it like throws me over its shoulder and like marches me out. I'm like, stop, I don't need this. But, if we can befriend those responses and kind of take a moment and say, okay, there's a reason we're doing this. The reason is we are more valuable than what we have been getting paid for. And it is safe to make this change. And there's a certain level of trust you have to have. Can you speak to that at all? Like because especially as an entrepreneur, if you raise your prices, you may lose a client. How do you talk yourself through that?
This is something I think I've gotten pretty good at now after 11 years.
Just after a mere 10, 11 years.
Decade of my child's life. I feel like if I send someone an email that says that their price is going up and they say, I'm sorry, like I can't afford that, or I can't pay that, or it's not worth that, or whatever it may be.
Or you suck.
Yeah, you suck. Don't do that. Then like I actually like in my brain when I send the email, like I pass the responsibility on to the client. I've kind of like take it away from myself and now it's their thing. So if they say no, that's totally fine. Like it sucks obviously to lose a client, but I think for me, I'm kind of like, if it doesn't, I don't want to be like, if it's not meant to be, it won't be, because I don't know if I like that phrase. But usually if someone says no or whatever, that opens up space for someone else that's to come in. I know that sounds so crazy, but I really believe that now. I used to just like hear people say that and I was just like, whatever, it's okay. But now I really do believe that. Like I have seen my proposals, people say no to a proposal, but then the next one is like even better and the client's even more aligned, so. But I try to like think of myself. I don't know if it was you. Someone told me this, like, you go into a store and like you look at a top at, I don't know, wherever you are. I don't want to say Target anymore, but like somewhere. And
random store.
And it's like, you look at the price and you're just like, that's too expensive. Like the top's like not mad at you, or the company's not mad at you for like not buying the top. You know what I mean? I'm just like, that's just a choice they make. Like,
yeah. And the company's not coming to you being like, okay, if you want to buy this top and you think this is too expensive, we'll cut it in half. We'll cut the price in half. They don't follow you around the store being like, what if I put it at this price? What if I put it at this price?
Right. And like, who knows? There could be like something someday where a client is like, I can't afford that, but can I do this for this long? And then if you really want to work with them, like, yeah, you can always make it. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of on them to, once you put yourself out there, it's on the other party to like make that decision. And I try now not to have an emotional reaction to no's or anything like that. But I don't think that's I think that that's something that I've had to work. Like it wasn't like that for a really long time. Like for a really long time, I was just like, okay, like I can do it for less. Or, if someone left, I would just be so heartbroken and blaming myself. And now I don't take it personally at all anymore. It's kind of just, okay, that's okay. But I do think that that comes with, time and experience and that kind of
and
thing.
confidence in your abilities. I think too, it really just comes back to not doubting yourself, because exactly what you're saying about setting your prices at a different level is what we could say about literally any boundary. You just have to be confident in the boundary that you're setting, confident in what you need is deserved, and that you deserve the thing that you're asking for. And then moving forward, knowing that once you release that request or that need or that boundary to the other person, that's in their court. And you have to make sure that you're going to be taken care of either way, and trusting that there's going to be provision for you to get your needs met, even if they say, no, I can't help meet that boundary or whatever it is. So I think so much of what you're saying is applicable in other areas too.
And I think it goes both directions. I mean, I'll be transparent. I have given a proposal to a client and gotten into their stuff. Granted, in my line of work, there's a little bit more work involved in the beginning, but let's say I've worked with them for 3 months or 4 months, and I see that in my body, I know that what I'm charging them is too much. I will reach out to them and I will lower their price. Like, I'm not saying that that's what you should do as an entrepreneur, but for me, like with myself, I work very intimately with clients. And if I'm doing work that I know they're being charged too much for, like it doesn't happen that often because now I'm pretty good about like my proposals, but it just has to feel good for you. Like you just have to know deep down that that's what it's worth, and that it's fair on both sides. You know what I mean? And so I try to channel that whenever I do any sort of like money pricing emails.
Yes, exactly. It has to be an aligned match for both sides.
Yeah.
So I think you've kind of already covered this, but is there anything else that you would say what you've been able to do having worked through things like perfectionism and imposter syndrome? What has that allowed you to do in your business? I mean, you've kind of alluded to changing how your business looks and offering new offers and that kind of thing. If you just had to give me like a quick list of things that you've been able to do having worked through those blocks, what would that look like?
I think my biggest thing for me is creating like a routine around my services. I used to be very custom, like every client was different. I did different responsibilities for every single client, which made my life really hard because everything was That's hard to give
burnout.
Yeah. It was like hard to give proposals. It was hard. And I actually went through a really, really bad time in my business where I had like 40 clients. It was just me. I was burning out, and I really had to like a come to Jesus moment where I was like, I had to actually not fire, but I had to get rid of like half my clients, and not to any fault of theirs, but because I was just overwhelmed and I couldn't say no to people. So I just said yes, yes, yes. And, typical, but that moment is over. I learned a lot from that. But I think creating more of like a process and a standard for myself, even though every client is different, every business is different, I still feel like I have now like a process. So getting through all like the yucky, like perfectionism and all of that, like I've been able to like standardize my business. With that said, I have not been able to create a business that has more of a group one to more people aspect to it. I'm strictly one-on-one. And that is like a current struggle that I'm, working with in my own business and in my own self. Like I'm trying to figure out, I've gotten so used to working in a certain way that I now can't go into a different way of working. You know what I mean? Like I can't like transition, and I could, because I love relationships and I love working one-on-one, and I don't want to not do that. Like I want that to be part of my business, but there is a part of me that wants to grow another piece of the business. And I'm just like, come on, Paige, like what's holding you back? You know what I mean? So that's like work in progress. If you want to, like, that's like the current work in progress is like being able to branch out from what I've been doing for 11 years. I think you get stuck in a routine and a pattern, So,
that makes sense. So so as you've gotten more confident in what you're offering, more standardized in what you offer, because I think too, as pleasers, man, it's so easy. I think we have kind of a sixth sense about what people want and need, and we kind of try to anticipate and think ahead about what we could do that would be right for that exact person. And it's in life, in business, in clients, like we're just always looking for that extra little, I used to always, I can memorize people's favorite things really easily. And I think that's something that came from my strong people-pleasing childhood. So I always knew someone's birthday, like what the actual day was, what their favorite color was, what their favorite thing, and all this different stuff. And I would kind of keep it in my mind. But it's like for acquaintances, you know, like that doesn't make sense for me to like be the person that is celebrating in such a very specific way for an acquaintance. But like that people pleaser in me was like, oh, I can do this for everyone. But if you're doing that kind of attentive, even in just relationships, but much less in a business with clients, if you're doing everything custom and you're reinventing the wheel every time, it's going to be something that takes a toll. So I love what you're saying about kind of standardizing your process, allowing for maybe you're not hitting every single little tiny thing that you were hitting before, but it's allowed you to kind of get the work-life balance you want and kind of move into this new territory. I'm excited to see what happens as you're exploring the one-to-many aspect. I don't know how that would look as an accountant. I have no idea. I don't know
either.
Group bookkeeping. Let's do it. But I think it's cool that you're challenging yourself, because you have, you know, not that as overachievers, not that we ever aren't challenging ourselves to the next level, but really it's motivated, I think in you is what I'm seeing, by there's another level of quality of life that I can live with this business, another level of abundance, another level of helping more people. And you can't do it at your own expense. So learning how you can morph and standardize and scale things, I think is a really powerful thing. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for sharing that. I just have a couple of questions for you that I like to ask at the end of an interview. What would be your best advice for someone listening who feels a little stuck with any of our 5 gang members: people pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination, imposter syndrome, and a negative self-talk?
Absolutely. Like finding your people that can support you. Like that's been like, I think courses and education are great, but like finding the coach or the mastermind, or even just like the friend who's also going through something similar, like for someone that's a little bit ahead of you, that has been a game changer for me. For the first 5 years of my business, I didn't do that because I didn't really know it was a thing. It wasn't really a thing, you know. It was kind of like it blew
Agreed.
up, and now it's a thing. I mean, like with me, with showing up on social media or my photo shoot, like I called you in because I was like, I don't know how to be visible. Like, how the hell do I do this? Please help me.
Yes.
And so
you're like, I do numbers. I do not do photo shoots.
Like, what am I supposed to act like? I look like ridiculous in front of the camera. So you helped me with that, by the way, like so much.
I'm so glad.
I think that that's like my biggest advice. And I think a lot of people fight that because I think they can, obviously people like us, overachievers, we think we can do everything ourselves. But we can't.
There's shame, I think, on us for needing help or for asking for something or for appearing weak, you know? But I agree. I think that support and finding the person that you feel comfortable with is so magical. It's so important. And you've done an incredible job of sourcing the right people in your life. And obviously it's working.
Yeah. I could have grown a business, but like very, very different from what I've done so far. And like, I feel like that support gets you through every block. Well, at least can help you get through every block that you have, you know?
Absolutely.
So, definitely.
Awesome. Okay. 2 other little tiny juicy tidbits. Okay. What is your go-to favorite pump up song? Because this is something that can be kind of a pattern interrupt for us when we're getting into survival mode. You can turn on a favorite song and it can shake things up a little bit for your nervous system and get you back aligned with yourself and in your body. So what song does that for you? So
I'm like a huge reggaeton person.
Awesome.
I grew up
I love
reggaeton. And like anything reggaeton, anything Shakira. But lately I've been listening to Gasolina by Daddy Yankee. So
Gasolina.
Yeah, that is like always my pump up song. I'm like anything like, hey, hey Google, play reggaeton, then I'm just like happy. But I think would be like my full on pump up song
at the moment. That's a good one. And I told you this before we did our interview, but my pump up song currently is one that I heard on a reel that you did, and I had never heard it before. It's called Edamame. I don't even remember what the guys are called, but they're ridiculous. The video is super weird. I don't know why, but the beat of it just like psychs me up, and not even to like super pump me up, but just to be like, oh yeah, there's fun stuff in the world and we can just relax and be in our body. And then final question, what's your go-to self-care when you really want to nurture yourself, but maybe you only have a few minutes? What's your favorite thing that you do for your system?
A few minutes. I love like quiet coffee in the morning. Like obviously coffee always brings me joy. So
really, what are we all doing?
I have no other answer. No, but I think if I'm home and like the whole family's home, I think just like a really nice long shower and like some skincare situation. I was influenced by one of those like red light things, and like
I got one and I can't get in the habit of using it. Okay.
Oh my God.
You have one and you love it?
I don't know. People are always like, do you love it? I'm like, I don't know if it does anything. Like, I don't have any idea if my skin looks any better, but it is relaxing.
I mean, your
as
skin
hell.
is
I'm just
amazing.
like,
Can we just be honest? Yes. And it has like the little warm light. I just need to get in the habit of it. That, yeah. Okay. So you've got a little, like a solar wave or whatever it is. Okay. Awesome.
yeah, that has been like very, like, they just sit in the bathroom, like lock the door, obviously, so like
Yep.
no children can come in, and just like,
Keep the boys out of there.
yeah, like just a little bit of skin, body, like self-care, I think
I
is
love
probably what I
that.
would go to. And then coffee or before.
And then
Either
obviously
one.
coffee as
Yeah.
well. Always,
Duh.
in addition to. Paige, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. Tell us about maybe what you're offering right now, or if someone wants to work with you, how do they get in touch with you? Where can people follow you?
Yeah, so I am currently, because I'm practicing self-control, not taking on any more one-on-one clients right now.
Okay.
But what has been super
Did you
fun
hear
is
that, everyone? She just set a boundary.
I'm not gonna lie, like that made me want to throw up a little bit when I said
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah, she actually leaned over and threw up in the trash can just now. It's fine.
But I have these 90-minute strategy calls that I've been doing that have been super awesome, like mapping out your budget, looking at your pricing, like setting up your QuickBooks. I mean, like the options are kind of endless, and that's why I like it, because it's like 90 minutes and it's like I get to know the person and it's enough time. And if you're struggling with your numbers or your finances or the organization of it or whatever, then we can talk about that there. Eventually, I want to start doing some like money pods or something where we all get together and we can just like no judgment talk about our money. And I don't know if that sounds fun to people or not, but like
It
we're gonna
does
just
to me.
try
I'm
it.
like, okay, where do I sign for that? That sounds awesome.
So I would like to get that in the works. So hopefully maybe this summer. Instagram, excuse me, Paige.Gott, Gott is my Instagram. And sometimes I show up there when I feel like I can.
When you feel like you want to be visible. And then
Just
your
start.
website, I love your website. I just went there for the first time today because I've been your client in the past and I've literally never been there. But it's Tidewater consulting.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And we'll put all that in the show notes for you guys. So we'll put her link to Instagram and link to her website, and highly, highly recommend that you get in touch with and connect with Paige. And if you can use help for your business, I mean, girl, really, this is your person. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Paige. I super appreciate you. And I hope you take good care. And for everyone else, take such good care of yourself. And we'll see you back here next week with some fresh views and how to take care of yourself even better. Take care, everyone.
Yay.